Hey, come on. Come on. Hey. What? Here we go, here we go, here we go now. Hey. Let's chit chat, this is the show now. Come on. Bad black mama's gonna let you know now. Hey. Here we go, here we go, here we go now. Come on. Let's chit chat, let's chit chat, hey. Let's chit chat, sis. Hey, what's up? Let's chit chat, let's chit chat, let's chit chat, sis. Hey.
Hey everybody, what are you doing today? We're back on the porch. How's everything going?
Doing well.
Great. Everything is well.
We're surviving. We're in the land of the living. You know, we're all here in our good minds, and nothing has happened to us. I should not say it like this, but the episode we're having today makes me say that. I mean, to be honest. So, you know, we have a guest co-host on here today. Tamika, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Hello.
Hey,
We want to welcome you to the porch, and you know, we don't want you to be a stranger because we're going to welcome you often. I'll just say that.
Welcome. Well, thank you so much.
To the porch. So I don't want to belabor this. This topic is hot right now. It's not just hot because you know, Tamika, myself and Chauncey, we live in Philadelphia, and we just had a mass shooting in the area, and Ramel is also from Philly as well. Had a mass shooting on South Street, which is historically known to be like a tourist area, a really popular area. I won't say just tourist, but it's a really popular area in Philadelphia.
Hangout spot. Yeah, just a hangout area.
People hang out, and you know, I remember I used to go there a lot when I was a kid. I go there now because I have a favorite bistro that I love to go to. So it was pretty shocking, pretty alarming. But in the back of my mind, it wasn't alarming. You know what I mean? So I say that because these kind of events are becoming the norm. So, you know, our topic tonight is, well, why is mass shootings and violence becoming the norm? It's been going on for plenty years now, and I think we've all become kind of numb to it. I know it sounds pretty sad. We had a school shooting. This last school shooting really rocked me to my core because I think it got to the point where they were a little bit more graphic to what happened to the children, and it kind of took me back to Sandy Hook. And if you think about it, they kind of just washed over Sandy Hook eventually, and people never talked about it again. You know what I mean? It's still it's happened, and people are still reeling from it. And we are here today to say that we still proceed on, but we don't proceed on and make changes. We proceed on and kind of do like we always do. Forget about it. So saying that, why? Who want to start?
I think people have become desensitized. We see it as sensationalized in the media, but until you've been impacted by it, or until you live in fear, you don't really understand the impact of, you know, the violence. You know, I was looking at a statistic that said in 2021, 20,900 and some odd people died from gun-related violence. That's ridiculous. You know, this is just in the US alone. But, you know, so if 500 people die in your city and you haven't gone to local government, you haven't voted, you haven't participated in any of the things that will help make a difference, then you have become desensitized to it. And that's when it starts to become the norm. That's just my opinion.
Okay. Chauncey?
I have a little different perspective. I don't feel like we're desensitized to it. I think that with the volume of people that we have, it is, if it doesn't affect you, it's easier to forget. Not desensitized, it's just out of sight is out of mind. And so I think when we live in certain places within the country, whether it be rural or whether it be urban areas, I think that we're all affected. Kimmy is aware that I was just affected last week. I literally walked into my house, and you would think where I live, yeah, it's still North Philly, it's still Center City, Northern Liberties, whatever name you want to give to it, but we don't usually have too much of that going on. We hear it in other places, but not here. seconds I walked into my house and 2 young men out on the street in front of my house started shooting at each other. I literally walked through my door. Had I been 2 seconds later, I would have been caught in the crossfire. And so I'm in no way desensitized to it. I don't want to use the word appreciative, but I understand with this last mass shooting in Texas, the purpose in being so graphic, because we have to be to get the point across to those who can help make the changes. And so that's, my point of view with it. And we're all untouched. We all know, whether we realize it or not, someone that has, been affected by this. So therefore we've been affected by it. And so, like I said, but the further removed you are from it, out of sight is out of mind, until it just gets closer and closer and closer. And even when it happens in the areas where we least expect it to happen, ergo Sandy Hook, then what happens is they're out there fighting for it. Those who don't normally fight with us when we have our injustices, they're fighting for it, but they're still not being heard. And the question is why?
Okay. How about you, Tamika?
Well, I think, and just to kind of piggyback about, why aren't people being heard? And I think it starts at the top. And you have legislators who care more about people who write in checks than casting votes. So if they don't think it's important enough to create some legislation to help push back, so to speak, and not make it so accessible, so easy. It just all starts at the top. So even with this latest mass shooting and the whole argument over the AK-15s and how they blame mental health, but yet you're defunding mental health. It's like everything that they blame, they're not funding that either. So they made it the norm, and leadership, it all starts at the top. So if the top doesn't see it as necessary to make necessary changes and listen to their constituents, then, the little man thinks, well, so what, and so that's what I think. It kind of just really starts at the top. And it's not just DC politicians, it's our local politicians. Again, in Philly, I don't see them on the camera giving me some news I can use. I'm tired of the thoughts of prayers, and you don't see them till it's voting time, and they don't want to hear that and pretend. And I used to work for a career politician, so I'm not telling you what I had heard, I'm telling you what I had experienced.
Amen.
I've seen who gets pushed to the front of the line, and here's my other thing. Where's the town hall meeting? So you can hear from the people who really going through it. There's no town hall meetings, because that'll put you accountable, because now you put on notice. So if I could just give you a turkey during the holidays and a book bag during back to school days and some water ice and pretzels during the block parties, then see what I'm doing, and put a thing in your door when I'm trying to vote. My thing is, you don't have to waste a stamp on me if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. This violence, it's a hot button issue, and it's a lot of layers to it. It's finding something for the kids to do so that they don't get swaddled up in the negativity. A lot of these shootings and jackings, they're 15 jacking a senior citizen, and so it's a whole lot of resources that can be used to kind of help, but where they at? So I want to take it to the top, to the leadership. You want to vote, you want to be large and in charge. It's not if you think you a star, which I think a lot of these politicians do, you ain't doing
Amen.
What you doing, my main thing. And I'm gonna stop, because when you get me on my soapbox with these politicians, the Sandman Sims got to come out. But my last point is, what are you doing when the cameras ain't running, when the reporters ain't writing? What are you doing just because it's your job to save the people? These are your communities, and it starts locally, because why should the big men care if the little men don't? So we as the people have to educate ourselves about what people are doing. If they knew that their job was at risk, because they love their job, because really, what else are they qualified to do? If they knew their job was on the line and we held them accountable, give me a town hall meeting and here's the results I want to see, then you're going to get them doing their job, and stop sending me these pointless newsletters about what you had did in secret because you didn't really do anything. And then when you dig deep enough, the people you gave the money to, 6 degrees of separation. You want to impress me? Help somebody at the back of the line. Okay.
Look, ain't okay. You hit on all
Yeah.
levels.
Ah,
Yes, you did.
it's a sore
Yes, you did.
spot if you can't tell.
All right, Keisha.
I think it's hyper polarized, the media. I
Mhm.
think it's either the narrative is either or. It's either the Black Lives Matter or Blue Lives Matter. And the thing about it is, because we say defund the police or we say be harder on criminals, the point is that we need both. So it's always a topic of either one city wants this, but no, they can't have it, just like she's saying, because of the back deals that they do, or because you say defund, and it doesn't mean defund, it actually means to kind of
Reallocate.
thank you, that's the word, reallocate the money to the programs that Ms. Tamika was talking about, the things that children, that young people can do. Why is crime going up? I believe we're all in an amount of stress. Even though we are not committing any crimes or doing anything, the world is under stress. So when you go to communities that already have poverty, already have job loss, already have a whole lot of things that, by the way, was, how can I put this? Kind of the system kind of made it that way through the redlining and through everything else. And that's why you have pockets of communities that's like this. And not saying crime is everywhere, but pockets of communities have more crime. And it's because of the laws and because of laws of the past that's now catching up with us now.
Because they haven't gone away.
No.
The laws of the past, they just have new layers on them. You know what I mean? They have new layers on them. And we cannot act, and you make a valid point. We cannot act like the whole system has been revamped.
Right.
That's the big thing. The system hasn't been revamped. You know what I mean? You still are in Jim Crow 2.000. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So you can't act like those things are not going on. But look, I'm not going to justify that, because I said I don't want to lead to something else.
No, I don't want to go that way, but
Let's go to an economic
plays a part.
breakdown. Okay, CG.
Man, this is a lot to unpack. So I mean, one of like the most basic things they teach you in economics is like, the crime and the economy have like a direct relationship to each other. So I like really agree with Keisha on what she's saying about, I think there needs to be less hyper focus on individual issues, and everybody needs to play their part, because it's not enough to say, okay, like one of the things that we hear a lot is like gun laws versus protection on site. And it's like, we're sitting here acting like we can't enact solutions for everything at once. And we have to, because it's not enough to just say, okay, we're going to get rid of the gun laws. We're going to, make gun laws so strict that, only certain people can get it. But at the same time, it's like, okay, so how does that cover the people who aren't getting guns through, through those channels, through the legal channels? Like, there's just not a lot. I don't think everybody's, I guess the problem that I'm just seeing is like there's too much hyper focus in one area, and then there's too much opportunity for other areas for things to just still be, taken advantage of. Like we see like these mass shootings. These are from people getting, guns from, legal channels. And then on top of that too, they're choosing some of the softest targets. And it's very unfair for, us to say that, you know what, we can't look at security. We can't look at things to make it a little bit more secure on those sites, and just talk about, oh, well, we're just going to change the laws and that's it. It's very, because at the end of the day, that doesn't stop somebody from or protect somebody actively in that situation. Sure. So I think it takes a lot of effort from everybody, from our politicians, from the education system, from the police department, even the gun industry too. The gun industry needs to get involved as well. Everybody needs to, put ideas together so that we can all cover each other, because it's not enough just to say, we're going to focus on this one area. And then on top of that too, a lot of these mass shooters, have a blueprint now. They have a blueprint of what they can do, and there's nothing being done, whether it's they're getting shot on site. I mean, whatever your solution is, hey, but I mean, it's just, they just know that they can go and blow off steam or whatever, and then put their gun down, and now they're apprehended. And you just have this trend of what's going on. And I think we need to really look at everybody just has a part to play, and they just need to do it. I guess that's where I'm at right now.
Everybody had the part to play. So I'm going to go to, the pastor said this, but this was really Rodney King. Why can't we get along?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Why can't we get along? Because I think economics play a really, really, really big part, because, you know, when you're in a time where, you know, the we are in recessions or depressions or things like that, crime usually goes up, because guess what? People got to do what they got to do to, you know, keep their family full. I'm not justifying crime, but I think we're in a different type of time now. I think that people just naturally have are agitated, don't like each other. You know what I mean? I think it goes even deeper than racism. You know what I mean? Because racism has never gone away. Let's be for real. You know what I mean? It may have been sugar coated in some way somewhere, but it's never gone. You know what I mean? But now it's like just straight hatred, bitterness, you know, agitation. All of that is you know, I don't know how you feel. Like, are you driving down the street and you're looking at the other driver and they're driving like a fucking nut? You know what I mean? And you're like, I'm a proceed with caution. You know what I mean? Because I don't know if that dude got a gun or what. You know what I mean? Because, you know, I didn't used to think like that, because I used to be like, flip them the bird. You know what I mean? Now I don't do that. You know what I mean? I'm just like, I sit like chilled in the car, like, yo, I don't know what dude got over here.
I won't even get in a fist fight. I won't even get in a fist fight.
Because the thing is, we should have never been doing it, right? So even when we call ourselves flipping the bird and we thought it was so innocent, people have always been, I know, but people have always been on the edge. What do we always say? You never know what the other person is going through. And it's funny because I have a license to carry. You know what I mean? I got my license to carry a few years ago, and my son's comment to me when I was coming home the other night, because I was coming home from my walk. So, you know, I'm the opposite of Kimmy. When it's really, really hot, I take my walks in the evening. And so I do it, you know, 7:30, and I got a good hour to walk before it starts to get dark or whatever. And my son's comment was like, Mom, you didn't have your gun on you? And I was like, why would I have my gun on me taking a walk? That's the first thing. The second thing is, what was I supposed to start doing? I don't know who's shooting. I'm just going to pull my gun out and start shooting. That's what happened on South Street.
That's what happened on South Street. Those two loons did that.
The two kids who started shooting, they heard gunshots somewhere else and then just start wildly shooting. And that's how two innocent people get killed. And so it doesn't help. So then now I have no comfort in having my own license to carry, even though it's supposed to be about a protection thing. That doesn't solve the problem. And like you said, we have more than two, but you got two situations going on here. We have the crime rate that's going up with the crime that has always happened, and then you have mass shootings, right? And so I know that the South Street incident was considered a mass shooting because of the area they were in and how it happened, but it's still a little different than what happened in Texas. And like CG said, having that blueprint as to how you're going to do this, and the black,
how to be a coward.
Right, but the black and the brown people already know, if I'm going to do this, they taking me out. I have no other way. I go in here, it's really a suicide.
I'm going to get taken out. You're not going to get a burger on the way to the jail.
It's a suicide mission, and they do it. But when the vanilla guys do it, they just like, oh, I'm gonna drop my gun, and then now they're gonna try and figure out my brain as to why I did this and what was the reason behind me doing this, and so on and so forth. It's just, it's crazy. It's just off the chain.
So I have two comments. So I was just, I never sit on my front porch because I'm always worried about shootings. And so I just happened to be sitting out there talking to one of my neighbors, and another neighbor came up, and she had told me that he carries one of those assault rifles. And so I just asked him, I said, why do you feel like you need that? And he was like, because what happens if the other person, he said, well, every gun is an assault gun, is a, semi-automatic or whatever. And I was like, what do you mean? He said, you can put an expanded clip on every gun. And I was like, but why do you feel you need it? He said, because what happens if the other guy has, 40 rounds and I only got the normal 9 in my gun? Well, shit, you better go start.
Corral somewhere.
I was like, you better go
Sure.
learn how to damn target practice, buddy. And then the other thing is that I was looking up. So he, and he's a young guy, and that's the mentality. What about what the other guy had? And then the other thing is, I was reading an article that they want to put guns in an Ohio school, and the parents and the teachers and everybody are protesting because now you're putting the guns in more hands of people who are not properly trained. And what happens if I flip out today because the principal done pissed me off yesterday?
So how are they going to decipher if everyone has guns in their hand? How are they going to decipher who has it to actually protect someone and who has it as far as I'm going to shoot everybody?
I haven't heard that.
That's the thing. And with us,
everybody's gonna take a battery of tests, and they're gonna say this test says that.
No, I'm talking about in the moment, Kim. Say the police come.
Oh, I know that that's not gonna work.
I know, because the first thing, don't want to make it a racial thing, but the first thing that they see me and myself, they're gonna first shoot me.
Mhm.
But it happened to be another nationality, then they might just ask them or apprehend them. So how are you going to be able to tell this? So that's the fear that I would have if I were to happen to have a gun, even if I had it legally.
All right, let me double back over here to Jay. Hey Jay, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm good, everybody. Peace and blessings. How's everybody doing?
Oh,
Well, how are you?
Okay, so Dave,
Good,
Jay, we're just going back. What is your thought about this topic? How we have now become desensitized, and now violence is the norm. So everybody has thrown in their opinion, and we want to get yours.
Oh my God, it's really not enough time. It's let me just summarize it by saying it's become so political now. Money and power. This country, as y'all know, started with violence and oppression as a way of the foundation being started. And, the gun control and things that need to be put in place here are getting shot down because of the monies that's being passed from NRA and all of this stuff here. It's just sad that we just can't get a better grip of it. And it really is just perpetually getting worse and worse, especially in our community. It just seems as though, I heard y'all talking about the assault weapons. I agree with you 100%. Mel, why do we have to have a AR-15? And I actually worked with a guy who told me he had like 66 weapons, and over 40 of them were assault rifles, and placed strategically throughout his house and his property. It's just really, it's frightening, and it's just I don't know, it's just hard to describe. It really is. And I see more and more people carrying now, open carry, which I'm all about responsible gun ownership. So I just want to go on the record to say that I don't have a problem with those that are responsible gun owners. I don't have a problem with those that want to protect their homes and defend their homes. I don't see any issue with that. I just don't understand, why would you need 5,000 pieces of ammunition and so many assault rifles, and be able to just give weapons to whoever you want to give them to in your family or whatever. That's just beyond me. So it is something that really breaks my heart and just baffles me that we have politicians that are still turning down legislation that could try and curb this, because there are laws that have been turned down, as y'all probably already aware of, that could help get rid of some of this stuff here. So hopefully out of all of this, what I would encourage everybody to do is look into your local level and start voting and finding out what's really on these people's agendas, and get the right people in office. But my feelings are like so many other people's. Kimmy, just frustrated as hell with it. I mean, I'm just tired of saying my condolences. I'm tired of hearing about it. I'm just, down here in Virginia, like everywhere else, it's just getting crazy. I saw the stat. It was something weird. I don't know if anybody looked it up, but it was over the weekend, last weekend. It was over 100 some like mass murders. I can't remember over the whole country.
And
I think it was
somebody
like over
wasn't included.
140.
Somebody wasn't included.
Those are reported, right?
Yeah,
Right.
that's reported. So somebody wasn't
Yeah.
included. And
So
I'm like you, Jay. I can't I don't know. I live right outside Philadelphia, and this is gonna be the kind of everybody is like sending me like little messages and stuff who don't live here. Like my kid's father sent me a message and was like, Kimmy, are y'all okay? You know what I mean? I was like, I don't live in Philadelphia.
But we haven't even had
but yeah,
summer
it's just
yet,
like
and it's
I had to
bucking
yeah,
up.
laugh because
exactly.
he
So
thinks that I live in, because most people say, because I always talk about Philadelphia, right? But I had to laugh. I was like, I live in Jersey, but I do live close to Philadelphia. Like I live like 22 minutes from Philadelphia. I go to Philadelphia all the time. But I was thankful that he was so nice to, make sure that, me and the kids was, okay. But then my daughter said something to me today. She was like, Dad said, don't be going to Philadelphia often because people crazy, right? Well, my daughter's gonna be 27 years old. She's not listening. So I was like, well, the concern is that you are to be aware of what you're doing. You know what I mean? I said because it's nothing where I live at. You know what I mean? I'm going to Philadelphia. You know what I mean? Where my
yeah,
friends and everybody is at. And I go to church in Philadelphia with Chauncey and stuff like that. I mean, I have faith because God is. I always say this: what's going to happen to you, God is all over it. You know what I mean? But I mean, I always have um uh just a protective nature about me. I just don't be
yeah.
lollygagging wherever I'm at. I'm not saying that's happening to people who are, victims of being shot or stuff like that. But I think what the part is just hard to digest is that we're looking at kids. You know what I mean? We're
Oh
looking
my
at
God, yeah, yeah.
teenagers and
Absolutely.
kids.
So
Because
I
I
do want to
even
go on record
now,
to say
where are your parents?
We're talking
I
about
don't,
no,
I don't
cowards and
know.
Chauncey.
One
kids.
I
one
can't. I'm
child in
sorry,
Philadelphia was
Chauncey.
15 that
I
got off
can't.
the
I can't
bus.
say that. I can't say where your parents were you talking about in grocery stores in
Yes,
places like that.
Well,
yes.
well,
I'm saying,
right,
let me go on record to say this. My
right.
opinion:
Yeah,
assault weapons need to be banned.
Yep.
That's
Yes,
just my
yes.
opinion. Assault
yeah, I
weapons need to
agree.
be banned, period. That's just my little 2 cents.
Yeah.
Because, just like when it happened at the Tops grocery store in Buffalo, the next day I was in Food Line and then, just going about my business. Then all of a sudden the thought hit my mind and I just instantly like had an anxiety. And I looked out the window like, you know, people were just in this grocery store, children, people were just so I don't start saying it's irresponsible parenting,
Well, we have two,
when
we were
this is
talking before
happening.
you came
Two
on,
different
we were
things. Yeah.
talking about two different things, the
Mhm.
mass
Okay,
shooting
my bag. I'm sorry, but
But let me
let's
just say
ban
this
assault.
about
Let
let
me
me
just
just say this
ban
about
assault
let me
weapons.
just say this about young people. The two things that has hit me about young people, and y'all, so because I want to wrap this up so we can talk about this in the after show. Two things I say about young people: either they are being taken out and harmed, not to their accord, or they are engaging in crime, and that's now their new lifestyle because they don't have resources and things that go back to what Tamika's saying. I think about when I was 14, 15, and 16 years old. I had some type of youthful job or something. You know what I mean? That the city helped provide. And I grew up in Philadelphia. I grew up in North Philadelphia. That the city helped me get. I was either watching some little kids, or I was doing something with the city. I worked for Parks and Recreation or something I did with the city that helped me. And we prepare for it every year. Tamika, you probably can relate to this because we did this every year. It kept us busy. You see what I'm saying? I hated it because I hated to be out in the freaking sun. You know what I mean? But my parents didn't give me an option. Your ass going down there and you're going to be working there. And I think I got $2 a day. But you know what? I took that money and it bought me some socks to go to Holland. You know what I mean? Because it wasn't much for after the whole doggone summer, but it taught me, you know, a lot of values. But my parents wasn't going to have me in no nonsense anyway. But just in case I thought about getting into some nonsense, you know, my day was so consumed and I was sucked from the sun that by the time I got off of work, I couldn't get into nobody's trouble because I was like, let me just go in the house, take a shower, and suck up the air conditioning at this time because
Right, but it was still a
I'm
collective, it was a collective effort. So in
right. And then you
addition
know
to
what, the
those,
neighbor to
in
find out you
addition
was
to
acting
those
up and all this
city-
stuff. People was a
right,
village for real.
but in
You know,
addition to those city programs, my mother just was gonna have me busy. Do you see what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
whether I was taking classes during the summer that were available to me, whether we would have the summer jobs, whatever it was, but it was still a collective community effort. So
but the
you
thing
had
I'm saying right now, Chauncey, is because local politicians do not think that's the top of the leaderboard anymore,
Mhm.
those things are not available. And guess what? Because your mom did her due diligence, my mom did her due diligence, we did our due diligence as parents. There's a lot of moms that need that helping hand to do their due diligence. You know what I mean? Because we're not all in the same bucket together. And remember, we all say it takes a village. Some people need help
Mhm.
to
The
help their
village,
And you didn't get as much,
unfortunately,
right. You
you
know
didn't
what I
get as
mean?
much running around back then either. Now you try to go get your kid involved in a program, you got to
It's
do a
no
whole lot of,
program. The
yeah,
program
it's no pro, the
Yeah,
program
no
doesn't
program.
exist,
they're
and there's a lot
limited.
of run
They're very
around.
limited.
Yeah, so they just got idle time. They sitting in the house, and you know what I mean. It's just like, okay, first and foremost, we didn't spend 2 years in the house on the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
So
And they pent
now
up.
everybody coming out, you know, they coming out and you know, built up frustration, anxiety, all kinds of things. It's like a perfect storm going on right now. Because when we say, I ain't saying just young people over here shooting all the time, but just back to what Chauncey said, those two little youngsters that shot because they heard the other three people who were down there fighting that had nothing to do with them start shooting because they heard other people shooting and they were the one that took out the people in Philadelphia. Why would you do that? You know
How
what I
did
mean?
they even have guns? That's what I want to know.
Exactly. How did you get the gun? You know what I mean? So, you know, it's a lot of things going on. So I think we talked about a lot of things tonight, but I think one thing we probably could talk about in the after show. But in closing, what is your final thoughts when we say, why is this now the norm? And I'm gonna start with you, Tamika.
I think it's the norm because enough people and people in power with the position to really enforce some change is become the norm because they don't see all of this excessive violence as abnormal. And that's because oftentimes your power, your position, it kind of bubbles you from what's really going on. So until it affects you personally, until it's their personal, a daughter, a nephew, till it hits them close, unfortunately, they're just really immune. So until it happens right to them, then you won't hear them say, we have to do something about this. But
Right.
it shouldn't have to be someone close to you for you to then get your colleagues together and figure out a way. And just quickly, like you said, with the programs are going away because they don't need a program. They got the Inside Connect. So they kid don't need to get the working papers. They don't need to get the program. They can call their friend and
Ooh,
say,
girl,
hey,
you
can
said
you
working
so-and-so the
paper.
job?
I ain't heard that.
Or they put them in their own office as the job, but because they got a different last name, HR don't know that that's really their grandson or they related
Right.
somehow. So they don't need the system that they're really supposed to be building up for their constituents. So until they realize all of this is abnormal, it'll continue to be normal.
Amen, girl. Keisha.
I'm going to speak to the fact of young people maybe shooting each other. I think the norm is because lack of conflict resolution. That's something that we try to teach in school at a young age, but along the way, because of what they experience, maybe their home life, maybe their community, a feel of that this is the only way I can get respect. That's how it's become the norm.
That's a good one, Keisha. Chauncey?
I have always said it when it comes to most issues, whether it be socioeconomic issues, whether it's personal or whatever, we are all in the same storm. We're just in different boats.
All right, girl. Jay?
I'd echo Keisha's sentiments. The conflict resolution skills. It's just unfortunately right now, this is what you're seeing all the time. This is what's being handled. This is what you know, almost being told what to do, and kind of what
Mhm.
y'all saying about the village, how it's kind of diminished.
Mhm.
But that's kind of unfortunate right now that violence is almost being like advocated in the
Glorified.
communities.
Mhm.
Yeah.
CG?
Um, I think it's here because we haven't, as far as like when it comes to like street shootings, like the streets gonna be the streets. Like if you want to undermine that, then you need to start doing something to get these kids away from it. So you're gonna need to
Mhm.
start pouring resources in to direct that traffic away from it.
Mhm.
As far as like the mass shootings and stuff, I really don't know. I think, you know, in America, I think our economy is just really bad. A lot of parents can't really stay at home, raise their kids like they used to. It's just life has changed, and we need to figure that out.
Mhm.
Mel?
I agree with both Keisha and Tamika. Conflict resolution is a huge problem, but young people, especially young men, their frontal lobe is not developed until they're much older,
Mhm.
which is a whole nother thing about the decision-making process.
Mhm.
So I agree with you on that, Keisha. But then when Tamika says that, you know, the programs and things like that, but look at who's being killed. Look at the 140 or whatever the number was, people who were killed in the last week, couple of weeks or whatever. Until the violence touches them, the people, the
Mhm.
household, the decision, the local decision makers, this is going to continue to be a problem, and they're going to continue to pass the buck. That's why I think there's so much violence. And you know, we need to be strict. You know, I don't think we need to, I don't know, defund the police. I think we need to reorganize. But that I'm going back to something we said earlier. I think we need to reorganize, and they need to be better trained and equipped to handle even conflict resolution, to de-escalate situations. That's my thought.
I think this was an outstanding episode. I think that we touched on a lot of things. I think this could have led into a lot of different arms because um being able to understand why we're in such a violent and peril type of society right now has behooved me. And I know it's probably something that everybody is trying to wrap their head around. But um the only thing I think we can do is hold ourselves accountable. That's huge. You know what I mean? Make sure that our kids are where they say they're supposed to be, what they're doing, you know what I mean? Even our adult kids, you know what I mean? Hold them accountable too. And hold, like Tamika said, this is just ringing in my head. Hold our leadership accountable. You know what I mean? I get so tired of hearing people saying, you know, they're not going to do nothing for me. I'm not going to vote. Oh my God, I have to walk away from people like
Mhm.
that. It
Mhm.
just, it irks me to my soul. You know, the same
Right.
old degenerates going to be up in there doing this crazy crap, and you are not going to have no say or nothing. I always say your one little vote. You see how these elections are going now, where they getting these runoffs and these have to recall, and because it's down to like 900 people.
Mhm.
900 people is very small. Wait till it gets down to 58 people, and your ass is a part of that 58 that didn't vote. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, so, you know, don't take it for granted, because I think that we have to change that narrative um, about voting. You know what I mean? I hear it every day, and I think, because I say this to Chauncey, and Chauncey is an avid podcast listener too. If you hear people saying things that they're saying now because they feel hopeless, I understand that hopelessness is real. It's so real, but we have to do something, because nobody's gonna change their narrative but us. We have to change,
I,
especially people of
and I
color.
want to
Go ahead,
I want to
Jay.
add some real, Kimmy, because something me and a couple guys are trying to do now. I think a
Uh-huh.
lot of young people are not voting because they just don't understand exactly why they should be voting.
Mhm.
So I want to just encourage everyone to try to embrace and share as much knowledge as you can with, you know, anyone about what actually goes on at the local level, who you're voting for, what positions they hold. So I think more information, more education will help open their minds to, you know, understand that your vote does matter. So, you know, because a lot of times people just think about the presidential election,
That's it.
And then that's it, you know.
That's it.
And so we're trying to
Educate.
just embrace young folks and try to start educating them a little bit more. So I'm glad to hear y'all bring that up. I just want to encourage everybody to embrace the next generation. Teach them as much as you can about what's going on at the local levels, because that's where it starts, y'all. It
Yep.
really does.
Absolutely.
All right, y'all. Great episode. Join us every week when we drop a new episode on Wednesday. Catch us on our social media pages, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I'm your girl, Kimmy, and joining me tonight is
Ramel.
Keisha.
Nika.
Hey.
DG.
I'm Chauncey.
And I'm JB.
Everybody have a wonderful week on purpose, and we'll see you again next week. So I think it was a good episode. So what didn't we cover?
Man, I want to start off with some. I think
Go ahead.
I'm definitely pro 2A. I mean, I come from a rural area too, so I'm used to being around guns. I don't have this fear like a lot of people in inner cities do.
Mhm.
But so when it comes to talking about legislation with guns, I do think that Black people as a whole, we need to be very scared. Not scared, but we need to be aware of like
Mhm.
sometimes the gun laws don't serve us. Sometimes these laws don't exactly serve us. And what I mean is like, you know, within the inner cities and stuff, you have a lot of people who aren't getting their guns through the traditional channels. So when you're talking about, okay, let's make these guns illegal, like they're already illegal. They're already illegal to get access. And then when you're talking about little kids, we're talking like you don't know what these laws are going to do on the back end. Like, all right, so cool. We get to now lock up a bunch of people for possessions, and they might not even committed a crime, but they're just possessing a gun. And then now we have all these people disenfranchised because they have criminal records for something as simple as a possession. So that's one thing that I kind of like. I'm a little like I tiptoe into the legal side of it because I'm like, is this really going to help, you know, the actual objective, or are we just going out just to lock a bunch of people up for, you know, victimless crimes, just honestly nothing. So that's one thing I always just want people to like consider as well, because you know, look at the war on drugs.
Oh yeah.
That didn't help us. It didn't help us.
No.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's always, for me, like when I look at some of these laws, I'm just like, you know, is this actually going to, you know, fix the objective that we're looking for? Because that's not going to close out, you know, people getting, you know, automatic switches for their Glocks on the streets. It's not going to change how these guns are imported into this country. Like, it just, it stops at the end user, and it doesn't really attack the source of the issue. So that's one thing I think everybody should, you know, at least take into consideration when we talk about these laws.
And
I
that's
think
what
the
I'm
next time
thinking.
I think the next time we need to have like a gun expert on, because you know what?
Mhm.
The thing what we see here in Philly is these ghost guns. You see what I'm saying? But I always say this: if Black folks went and bought guns legally,
Mhm.
go get you some AR-15s and things like that. I bet you the laws will change. Go get it. Go,
course.
But
go,
guess what?
go
But guess
get them.
what?
But
They
the
are-
laws would change at the
but they-
top.
Right,
not
but see,
for
the
the
thing is,
bottom.
they are going to them. Where I got my gun was at a gun show right there in Oaks, PA. And you would be surprised how many brown people were in there buying
It's
their
not
guns.
enough. It's not
And
enough.
so, right, but I'm saying we're buying them, and we're buying them legally.
I look,
and
I didn't
so-
have guns for a long time. A
Yeah,
long time.
and
And I
we've
got my
always
guns
had-
legal. I ain't buy it on the corner. I'm just
Right.
saying. A
Right.
lot of
I
us,
understand.
instead of buying something illegally, go get your gun legally. But the thing is, we are
They can't.
handicapped because, like TG said, we got criminal records and things like that. So we going to buy ghost guns and we buying these things that we shouldn't get. But if we had the opportunity to buy guns just like they're buying guns in the massive amount, you said let them have some record of the whole city of Philadelphia, all Black people bought AR-15s. I bet you Congress be having a special session tomorrow.
They would, but you
Yes,
know what
they would.
also? What we're all forgetting is that just because we change the gun laws don't mean we have to start at the bottom by criminalizing every time you buy a gun. Why aren't we
Absolutely.
holding,
Well,
why
I
aren't we
mean-
holding these gun manufacturers more accountable? Some of these guns are military style guns that don't even need to be on the street. You don't need
Money.
that. And the thing is, if we get them out of bed with Congress, and if we get them out of bed with all these other governments, we would be able to not have to criminalize every single element of it at the bottom. One last thing too is that there's a show on Netflix called The G Word, and it's by former President Obama, and it educates people who are, in a very simplistic way, what all the aspects of government do. Everybody, like each department. So for those people who are not feeling like they want to vote because their votes don't count, if they take a look at that show, I was fascinated by it because it
That's a good
explained
one, 'cause I actually saw it. It was actually good.
It was
And
good.
actually I think that younger children on up should see that. And I think
Absolutely.
President Obama put that out there
Yeah.
because I don't even know if they have civics in school now. I don't know.
That's what I was gonna ask.
It's
Steve.
called the G Word.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
I was
it's
gonna
Word.
ask Keisha,
really,
that-
really good.
You know, we had civics and we
Yes.
had, you know, American history, and that taught us about the laws from the ground up. And so, but I do know as a country, I think that you know, CG hit the nail on the head earlier when he indicated, you know, how the country was founded. You know, the United States is fascinated with hebephilia and guns. That was how this country was created, how we got everything started. And
Because no other
fascination
country got
is
this
still
problem
like
with us.
that. Okay, but between hebephilia and guns, we got a problem.
And that's one problem. And I always say, if it doesn't serve their purpose, and I say their purpose, y'all know who purpose that is, nothing won't change. You know, it becomes population control. If you're eliminated because you're just a part of the people that need to be taken out of the number count, you're gonna be eliminated. Because if we don't sit and look at what is actually going on, this didn't just start because we came out of a pandemic. People can die. Answer this question. Maybe I'm the crazy one. Why we don't hear anything about Chicago anymore? They was having 500 shootings a night. Did that just stop?
No, their
No.
numbers are still high, but
They're still
just-
high, but
we've
they done
just-
diverted it around because now everybody's
just-
shooting. That's the point I'm making.
we've
That
surpassed.
didn't stop. You know what I mean? So ain't nobody going over there to help those people. You see what I'm saying? You don't hear it. Used to hear it constantly. It didn't stop. I'm sure it's people piled in the morgue, but they're not worth talking about. You see what I'm saying? They switched in there. People don't understand. And I say this because I hear this so much from either my son or my nephew. The media control the narrative. And if you fall into that black hole and not take the time to read, I'm not talking about what you see right here. Do some research and read what's really going on. I'm telling you, you'll fall for it. You'll fall for it. And it's and I hate to say Donald Trump's name because he used to disturb me greatly. But I'm saying, I hate to say the word fake news, but the media changes the narrative to fit what they want you to hear. And when you know that there's other things that's going on. So right now in the country, everybody thinks that Philadelphia is the #1 murder capital of the world. That's not true.
Well, I don't
That's not
think,
true.
but I think what you just said is a valid point. You have to open up your horizons. People are only going to watch the local news, right? Very few people stay on to watch the world news after the local news goes off. Local news comes on multiple times throughout the
And in
day.
Philadelphia, it's on all day.
Exactly. So they do what's convenient for them. And so they turn on the local news, that's all they see. If there's
Yeah.
something huge that's happened, then you'll see it from a national perspective. But it's always been that way. So it's not something that has just started. Now that we have the internet available to us, now that we have 24-hour news stations or whatever, you can get a glimpse of what's happening in other places. But people are willing to turn it off because once you get finished seeing what's happened locally, you don't have the stomach to watch anything else anymore. And
That's
so
true.
you either get inundated and you're constantly, I watched the news. I was a journalism major in college. I have watched the news for 30 years plus. I'm tired. And I still know that it's out there. But what do we do to do our part? We still have to start small, start within ourselves and within our communities and our own families, and then take it to our churches, take it to our neighborhoods, go to our local congressmen. We have to stay on top of them. We have to make sure that what was promised to us is delivered to us. And so we just can't sit complaining, throwing our arms up that, nothing's happening. Well, then what are you doing to make sure that it does? And so the thing is, people are just so used to sitting back, letting somebody else take care of it and not doing their part. And we got to step up.
Well, I'll just say this. Anybody have anything else they think we didn't cover?
I just wanted to add to talking about the news part. We definitely have to educate ourselves. And some people, they're not even watching the local news. They just scrolling through what they're fed on social media. And we see a lot of that is all twisted and turned. And so they go by social media is their gospel, and so they go by that. And so we have to just educate ourselves, and it go back to Schoolhouse Rock. Yep. The whole what was it? Yes, I'm only a bill. Capital Hill. You gotta take it back to that if you want to know what's going on, and take that the same way we want to see what's going on with celebrities and who's dating who broke up, who did this stuff that don't matter, who regardless of who Kim Kardashian or Lori Hart, whoever they dating,
like who cares?
That gets us nowhere. And the sad part is, like, everything we've said is all important. It's a mixed bag of everything. But I think if we could just pull anything together, it starts with us and demanding what we need from the people in charge, because they over everything. So while it takes everything, they the ones that make I love a theme, so I'm gonna stick with my theme and picking on the politicians. But we have to educate ourselves so that we know what questions we're asking. We know what we're demanding, and we can't, like we said too, we can't get complacent, and we can't give up just because you went one day and they said no or they didn't pick up. We have to act like our lives depend on it, and it does.
It does.
Well,
it does.
Squeaky wheel get the most oil. We got to start squeaking, and everybody got to start squeaking at the same time.
If we're gonna take it to that step, then I'm sorry, but running through the proper channels ain't gonna work. Like, there has to be major disruption. I mean, and I'm not saying you need to go mob the White House like they did, back then. But I'm sorry, it's gonna take a equally, outrageous reaction, some type of disruption, economically, socially. There's gonna have to be a disruption. We cannot sit here and wait on legislation and paperwork. Like, I understand you trying to teach the kids and tell the kids, oh, hey, get involved politically and everything, but how can we
that don't work?
Tell people, like, hey, keep trusting in the system when the system is funded by these large corporations. Like, we're basically in what I call a corporatocracy right now, where the corporations got their pocket. All they got to do is just line the pockets of a politician. It's a wrap. So it's like, it's very discouraging, to hear, like, hey, let's just keep on fighting this good fight and just keep on doing the right thing when we know, like, what we're really up against. And I think we have to be honest about that too. Like, shit's fucked up. It's not as simple as, like, let's just go vote. We're not there anymore. That's why we have so much violence, because people are they're frustrated in a lot of ways. So I'm sorry, but I think some people gonna have to.
But you keep
I agree.
I agree. You are.
I hear you, CG. I hear you, CG, and I mean, you're making a good point, because the most pivotal times of American changes have become a mass movement of people.
Exactly.
However, like, just looking at this damn selection committee and everything that's going on, for freaking insurrection, like you say, the mobbing of the White House, that they were like, oh, we're going to stop y'all from really doing what their civic duty is just beyond me. However, we still do have to educate the next generation that you have to vote. It's your duty, your right to vote. So I find, like, there's got to be some kind of mixture of both in some way. I just don't agree. Right.
That's what I was going to say too, Jay.
But how many people got to die before we take any action?
How many kids we
What I'm
got to
saying,
see?
right? So
It
what I'm
takes two.
saying is, my age range, us, we got to get up off our asses and not be afraid to get our hands dirty in our communities in whatever way we have to be a part of that change. Let's actually do something, to go out here and try to make a difference, man. Because you're right, it's fucked up and it's not getting better. It's not at all. I'm mentoring this 15-year-old kid that put a gun in this dude's head that he thought had like $500 in his pocket, and he was telling me he'd do it again, if he thought somebody had 2 or 3,000. I'm like, your life is worth that now?
Those kids scare
How
the
did
hell out
how
of
did
me.
yeah, how did your life become so minuscule? I said, because you don't think somebody's gonna have a gun in their pocket that's gonna be pull the trigger too? You don't want to pull a trigger,
But if
but
you
the
ask young
mindset
people like
is
that,
just
if you ask
yeah.
young people like that the question, J Bay, I just want
Yeah.
to, because I know you're mentoring him, but ask him the question back that how much do he value his own life? You'll be
Well,
so
that's what I was saying.
shocked.
That's actually what I was saying
Clearly
to
not
him,
more than $500.
No, but
Right.
they don't. They don't. They're not scared of death. They're not scared of. They don't
No
have.
fear.
But this is to CG's point, how fucked up things are right now,
Yeah.
in this world, in this generation. And so it does. It has to be a mass movement of people. Again, this is what we need to do. We need to have a mass movement of people.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to call out no entertainers and everybody that's millionaires and everybody, but everybody needs to come together that has that type of influential power and platforms,
And when we say
and
power
not
and
give a fuck about
platform,
endorsement.
it got
Yeah,
to be
and not care about
across
no
the
endorsements.
board. When I say across
Yeah,
the board,
absolutely.
you got to
Yeah.
shut down paying for things. You got to cut them off. You got to be willing. Everybody has to be a part of cutting off the bloodline to it. You know what I mean? Because it is not. If somebody's giving a little bit over here and somebody giving a little bit over here, they still got enough to live. You see what I'm saying? But we have to be so persuasive to all that, you know what? I'm not buying that no more. You know what I mean? We're going to have our own resources here and do the best we can, even if it causes us to be uncomfortable. I think people are in such the comfortable mode, they're not willing to sacrifice for the greater good. So on that, I know that we can go into a lot. I think this episode was good. I think we covered a lot of things. And I'm going to actually have a continuation of this episode for season 4, but it won't be, Violence is the Norm. I'll name it something else. I'll probably get some feedback from you guys. But I thank you guys. It was an awesome episode. Everybody gave their all, and, we'll do this again. So in closing, final thoughts. Tamika?
Final thoughts is again, sticking with the theme education, also about the red tape that ties our hand together.
All right, girl.
That we can get around it.
All right, girl. You did an awesome job today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Keisha?
I would say know your laws within your state so that you will know about your gun laws. And I also would say it takes both inside work and outside work to make a change. And it also goes back to the programs of poverty, because if the kids are actually committing crimes or doing things like that, you got to look back at what's going on to make them want to do that. Most of the time, it's the lack of.
Chauncey?
Just know, if we could say anything, if there's any young person listening, if there's anyone who has influence over young people, just remind them that they are loved. They are cared about. We care about you. We love you. We care what happens to you. And we hope that you care what happens to you, because you can have many people in the world that are rooting for you and want the best outcome for you. But if you don't feel it yourself, if you don't want it for yourself, then we already have the challenge and a problem on our hands. But just to let them know and reiterate, you don't have to be in my family for me to know you and to love you and to care about you. I think that's one of the biggest lessons.
Mel?
I say we got to get our asses out there and vote, educate our children, and hold our local and upper government accountable. because it's not just going to be enough to deal with just the children, because they, like I said, they're not developed enough. But that's not an excuse for them to go out and act a fool, but education is going to be key too.
Mhm.
Yeah. CG?
It's so much to unpack. It's so much to unpack. You know, I think everybody needs to stay within their lane and do what you need to do. If you're in, you know, if you're in any type of 2A groups, you know, teach people how to protect themselves. If your lane is within the political arena, you'll go put pressure on them. Like, I think everybody, it's going to be a group effort in order to really bring this down in America. And it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be pretty. We just have to go through it, but stay safe.
Thank you. Jay?
Oh man, uh I agree with everyone just said, basically. And just we just gotta just figure out a way to instill peace and love in the
Can we get
hearts
along?
and the minds.
Pastor said this morning, can we
That's it.
all get along?
Mhm.
Right.
The
Yeah.
Rodney
Yeah.
King.
All right, y'all. Well, have a great evening. And thank you again. Wonderful episode. And we'll do this again next week. I'm your girl, Kimmy. And joining me tonight on the porch is my co-host, Tamika, Ramel, Keisha, CG, and JB, and Chauncey. Have a wonderful week on purpose.
Bye-bye.
Peace.